Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Laughing Dragon 20k Regional Championship Qualifier. We started this weekend with 202 players. We've whittled it down to 33 players for day number 2. And we're in round number 10, so we've got some more modern action for all you beautiful people. Kicking off, Dom, we have got another Nadu deck. I know everybody's falling asleep to it now, but it is against some almighty spice on the other side. It is against no drifter control. Now, this is not a conventional deck that you've seen a lot of in Modern, so talk me through it. Why is this called no drifter control?
So this is if you're a legacy boomer, the kind of Stifle Knot vibes coming back in. You basically have Flage, which is a staple of the Jeskai decks at this point, but also Null Drifter in conjunction with Dress Down. So the gimmick there is you flash in the Dress Down on their turn, their end step, and then during your turn, you cast Null Drifter, cast your Flage. You don't have to sacrifice it before it go away. And in Null Drifter's case, you still get the draw to, because unlike Mole Drifter, the OG, this is a cast trigger, not an ETB. So you still get your cards, and you get, for next turn, 4/4 flying, annihilating attacker for just 3 mana. So that's a really nice little setup. With Flage, of course, you curve Dress Down into Flage. You don't get the Lightning Helix, but you get to keep the Flage. So you get a Lightning Helix every turn after that, which usually is not that many turns. And the nice thing with Dress Down is it's just a really good card in Modern, especially against the main menace of the format in this Nadu deck.
And we're going to see it now, see how good that can be. We've got Ting Fang on the left of our screens, Alexander on the right, 7-1-1, 8-1 records, trying to get that next win to give themselves a shot at getting in the top 8 today. 13 rounds of Swiss, and you're joining us in round number 10. Now, Jeskai Control, very good deck in that, it's meant to be the Nadu killer deck. It lines up quite well as well against some of the lower to the ground Boris decks, purely because of one card, which is Wrath of the Skies. 2 mana, it can just wrath the board on turn 2 if you have some sort of setup on turn 1 with like a Galvanic Discharge, or even attune the narrative. How good is this card, and especially in this matchup?
It's a fantastic card, and it is the scariest card from the Nadu side in this matchup as well. A lot of the game will come down to, do they have the Wrath of the Skies? Do they have this untapped white source for the Wrath of the Skies? Do they have the tune the narrative or the discharge to bump up their energy to the point where the Wrath is everything instead of just most things? So a lot of the game's going to revolve around that card. Only 3 copies here for Ting Fang Wan, but his deck has so much other stuff going on, and so much of that is also good against Nadu that won't be missing that one too much here. And it's interesting, after the Pro Tour, we saw a lot of the Jeskai lists kind of go towards that model that we saw there of the One Ring, Subtlety, Solitude, that kind of focus. Whereas this build from Ting Fang, I remember covering an event where he was playing this before the PT, heading into that, and now he's kind of still on that same train. So he's essentially declared, this is how I want to play my Jeskai deck, and he's making another very deep run with it here.
Yeah, actually putting out great results. This is more a domain build as well. That's why we're seeing triomes being used in it, and we do say Leyline Binding in hand. This is kind of the flavor of it. I like it. I think it's a nice way to kind of switch on the meta as well, because a lot of people will just be expecting the traditional stock Jeskai builds. So being able to have the Null Drifter, being able to have the Dress Downs, for access to things like Leyline's Binding is really going to give us that extra angle in some matchups. But after a blistering start here over on Alexander's side, as looks like we're going to try and enchant this Wall of Roots. Do we have a response on the other side? We could. What, can we shock in this point and get down the Leyline's Binding in response? Just trying to see if we've got the other land.
Yeah, I mean, these binding decks are basically set up so any triome and any fetch land lets you fetch a tap land you want, and then also cast a binding for 1 mana. So yeah, it looks like I want to say Indartha Triome being joined by Thundering Falls, and then that white source, we got all 5 types now, so that can cast the binding there and get your cheeky Surveil in there for free.
We've already spoke about Surveils and how good they can be. It's basically play a land, draw half a card at this point in Magic, I'd say. So we get to look at this top card. Is that going to be good in this matchup? It's a Steam Vents. Do we need our land drops? Looks like we do. So we're happy to keep it on top. And then Leyline's Binding is going to come down, target this Wall of Roots before the resolution of sorry, I'm reading off the wrong card here. Natuko comes down. And then it's going to generate ourselves a little insect token as well. We get a look at the hand here. See another Suko. I think we're just firing this off now, right? Like, is there a reason to do this now? Like, if we don't have another play, is there a reason to fetch early?
So you kind of want to, even if you don't have a way to spend the mana, once the Nantuko is in play, you don't want it getting killed by a discharge or something in response to the fetch. So just making sure we get the maximum number of insects creeping around.
And again, we're happy to take the 2 points of damage here. Now it gives us access to blue in case that's apparent. We do see some spicy one-offs floating around in these lists at the minute. Could just be something as easy as Spell Pierce. Could be, what's the one I'm thinking that gives them the 2/2 bird?
Swan Song or Strict Serenade. The kind of riff on that we saw in MH3.
But we're going to go for a Rumble here. Now, this is a card that is literally making rumbles in the format. It's been really, really good in every deck I've kind of seen it in at the minute. 2 mana to put a permanent from the top 4 into your hand, put the rest into the graveyard, and it generates an Eldrazi Scion token that can be sacked for 1 mana if needs be. So again, another way of ramping, another way of filtering through a deck, finding those key cards.
Yeah, the Rumble in conjunction with the Shifting Woodland that you see there among Alexander's lands, this is the key package against these control decks. Shifting Woodland, one of the scariest cards for control going along because it's a land, so you can't counterspell that, you can't subtlety that, you can't Wrath of the Skies it, nothing. And given enough time, that can become the missing piece, the Nadu, the Shuko. Even if the first one got destroyed, well, this just lets you rebuild and go again. So very scary card and kind of a key part of the recipe for taking down these control decks.
It's kind of like why we see Saga being so good, right? It can be a threat by itself. It can find us a piece that we need in not whatever deck it's played in. It's just there's no counter magic involved. This is a really good way to get underneath control decks. We're going to find ourselves at a second Shuko here. So that's going to hit the battlefield. There was no Wrath of the Skies last turn, at least not for 1, which is what we had access to if needs be.
And the Saga point is part of why Wrath of the Skies is such a big pickup for these control decks. Is one of the best cards against Urza Saga too. And between the Saga and Dress Down, Ting Fang's deck is actually pretty well set up against Saga.
Oh, it looks like we've got a Nadu in hand now as well. Are we going to deploy the third Shuko here? Is there a need to? Like, would it hinder our chances if we do see a Wrath of the Skies next turn from Ting Fang? I think we've also got a Sun Cleanser in hand as well for Alexander. Just no way to deploy it, no white mana. That'd be a good hedge against the Wrath of the Skies.
Yeah, these Bant decks they're blue-green with a very light touch of white for the most part. So it can actually be surprisingly hard to just cast those sideboard cards sometimes. But yeah, Sun Cleanser against, the Galvanic Discharge is nice against that, but specifically Wrath of the Skies. Like that interaction is the main point there. And there's the Wrath.
Yeah, we drew it for turn.
So that's going to take down everything.
Literally everything. Artifacts, the creatures, all going to go to the graveyard here. Just leaving Alexander with 3 lonely lands. But that is enough to cast a Nadu as the turn gets passed back. Can we rebuild from here?
And, if he finds the white, then the Sun Cleanser will be a bit of an annoyance there for Ting Fang. Notably, Sun Cleanser, if you get it down, you get its trigger. Once it's in play, it still works through Dress Down. That ability not turned off there. And with all of those stuff being swept up by Wrath, it's safe to say Alexander has Delirium. So that Shifting Woodland looking to start doing its thing soon as well.
Hold on, look at these top decks. So that was a great top deck there of being able to draw the Spring Heart, being able to put that on the Nadu, start getting the triggers going off that way. Because the other thing here for Ting Fang, the last 3 cards in hand is a Dress Down, a Null Drifter, and a Flage. But look at this. This is the perfect cards that we need. Dress Down is going to have to be cast now in response, not end of turn like we would like to have done.
Yeah, so this will stop Nadu going crazy for right now. We're still going to get to swing in for 5 here. put Ting Fang down to 8. But then, yeah, Dress Down not going to stick around through Ting Fang's turn. Can manually work towards the Flage.
Am I missing something? Oh no, we went land go, didn't we? That's what it was. I was like, did that not come down this turn? It didn't. It didn't. But here it comes. There is our 6th land and Wrath of the Skies again for 4 this time, gaining 4 energy. So we'll have 1 left over. Okay, rebuild again. That was a Stone Rain, a Disenchant ×2, and a kill spell. Crazy. Well, this is another good one to rebuild here if needs be. Any land drop's going to generate a token. There it is. Fetch land. That can find a Surveil if needs be. Maybe we go fire it off right now, get the white source, and get the Sun Cleanser on the battlefield. Even though I must say the damage has probably already been done.
Yeah, and at this point, Ting Fang doesn't care so much about energy, right? You look at his hand, Null Drifter, Flage. Like, Flage is going to clean up the Nantuko, and then got enough fuel there to escape it soon. And so at this point, the game isn't really about energy so much anymore, unless Ting Fang finds, like, the 3rd Wrath of the Skies, and that gets shut off.
Yeah, let's have a little look at how we're going to... like Flage in general, I think, is one of my favorite cards currently in Modern. I really love that card. I love everything to do with it. It does exactly what I want it to do as well. And here it comes in. 3 damage, Lightning Helix effects. We're going to gain 3 while dealing 3. It's going to go to the graveyard. If we've got the 4th land drop, we may be able to get it out of the graveyard this turn, but we don't. So we're just holding up the 3 mana. We know there's an old Drifter in hand. And a Reprieve and a Tune the Narrative. So a lot of interaction if needs be. But none of it does much against this. I think we're copying the would you say the Nadu here? I think it would be.
I would imagine. Yeah, and this is the ready scene, like creature land mode of Shifting Woodland, right? Just making a guy and gonna start beating you down. And we don't have, both Shukos have been blown up here, so missing the other piece to kind of start going nuts with Nadu. But if he can find that, then could maybe kind of go off again, if you like, for the 3rd time in this game through 2 Wrathless guys.
Yeah, and this is the problem. You can't really race a Flage. Like it's extremely hard to race one in damage, especially when you're so far behind on cards. Now, having a look at the graveyard, seeing what we can copy in there. Maybe I didn't get a good look at what we drew for the turn, but I think we're going to find out of everyone. It's a Safekeeper. Okay, now we've got a Nadu in the graveyard. This is a way to trigger Nadu. Will cost us lands to do it, though. And then we're just going to pass the turn back. End step, fetch. That's going to get a Surveil land. I feel like Ting Fang's probably in the driving position and quite favoured from here on out.
Yeah, it took a few steps, but I think Ting Fang is finally in solid control.
You just need, turn 2 interaction into a turn 4 Wrath into a turn 5 Wrath, and you can take down the bird. Is that where we're at? Is that how good it is? Also, we're very close. In fact, we are spot on if we want to. Hard casting a Null Drifter at this point over on Ting Fang's side.
That said, there is Sylvan Safekeeper there, and if Woodland becomes Nadu again, well, that's a combo of swords. It can actually start going off again.
I wouldn't put it past Alexander being able to pull off in this situation. I said this deck is one of the most powerful I've ever seen in Modern. It is extremely powerful. But then Ting Fang's in the control seat, got a lot of powerful stuff going on, has a Flage on the battlefield already. Now it's got an EI looking at the top 3 cards. One's going to go to exile that we can cast at end of turn. One's going to go to the hand. One's going to go to the bottom of my deck. Flage is the one I'm going to go to exile. Didn't have a good look at what went to hand just yet, but we'll find that out momentarily, I'm sure. Land for the turn. It's going to be an island. I'll spot down at time of turn. It was a Tune the Narrative went to hand. So
yeah, so Woodland becoming Nadu, it looks like at the beginning of combat. So if Ting Fang wanted to shoot a creature, it would trigger the Nadu. So that 3 damage going upstairs instead, and a nice chunk of 6 from Flage coming through in combat. And so now it looks like evoking an Old Drifter post combat here, or just another Flage. Okay,
we're going face. We're going aggro. I love it.
Racking that damage up.
So yeah, Ting Fang's life totals we gained at least 6 this turn. That leaves us with that tune, that reprieve, and no drifter in hand still. And I think we're going to go end of turn, sacrifice a land, trigger with the Nadu ability. That's going to draw us a rumble. And then end of turn, it's going to go back to being a land. What can we do on Alexander's side here? We've been raft twice. A lot of our key pieces are in the graveyard, not in our hand. And in the time we're thinking, do we have any more turns? We're at 2. We cannot let another attack happen from Ting Fang with that Flage. Is there a line here? I'm trying to think. We make a Nadu, we sack a land, we trigger. I'm sure there's a crazy sequence that could happen in this situation. And if it's going to happen, it looks like we're going to be here for the journey. As Alex is going to try and start this chain of events happening. So sacrifice, give the creature Shroud. Endurance now goes to the grip. Do it again, because we're going to stack the triggers so it doesn't gain Shroud before the first one resolves. That's not a land either. You see a little shake of the head there from Alexander. Looks like we drew the Wooded Foothills for the turn. Wrong, the Windswept Heath for the turn.
Yeah, so a very valiant effort here from Alex. It's impressive that we're even trying to go off at all through everything that's happened in this game. But I think this is the end of the road.
Well, so here comes. So we wanted the second land here so we can respond to the first trigger. Call to Cooling. Again, not great right now. Do we want to fetch this? We are going to go fetch maybe for a Dryad Arbor. Does it do anything in this situation? We can't core just yet. Can't cast any creatures just yet. Maybe I see Surveil Land being pulled to the top here. Stopped a little bit the Dryad Arbor as well. This is where my reps of the deck would be stopped. I'm not entirely sure where I'm trying to find it. This situation. This is which is weird, right? Being a Yawgmoth player, I decided not to pick up this deck and play it. It's like it plays a lot.
You're missing out. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy. Right, Surveil trigger. So we're keeping it on top. So we will sacrifice this to trigger the Nadu. It's another fetch land. But like, what's the end step here? We're just stone raining ourselves to get another land. Float mana.
So with Safekeeper, you're kind of treading water, right? You're just spending cards to make new cards, but you need a way to actually move up in the world somewhere there, right? And there's just nothing quite like that here this time. So yeah, Ting Fang, I'm going to take game 1 here in what I think is meant to be and is a good matchup for this build of Jeskai, but pretty impressive that the Nadu deck was able to keep up with that level of targeted kind of warfare from the other side.
Yeah, that's the crazy bit, right? Like two rafts happen, plus Flage is on the battlefield getting turned side continuously. There was still a line. If we hit like a good sequence of cards, if we hit a few more land earlier than the non-land cards in that sequence, we could have just gone off again there for Alexander and potentially even taken that game down, or at least stabilized for a future turn to go off. It shows the power of this deck, but it was not to be. Ting Fang taking down game number 1 as we head into the sideboards. Chat's having a little talk. Yeah, the production's done by Amber. Shout out to Amber, and Richard working behind the scenes here today. Anu is everybody's favorite, but is at home on baby duties, but is tuning in, watching, along with all the rest of you out there. So huge shout out to him, and shout out to you for watching as well, everybody. It's going to be a great show, nonetheless, because of course everyone's working hard. There we can see Richard checking all the cameras as well there on the screen. Talk to me about sideboards.
Yeah, I also want to echo that shout out to official baby girl Anu watching from home, who does so much hard work to make coverage like this possible again. And then, as we said, to Amber and Richard on the floor for being there in the trenches, bringing this to you from here in LA. But looking at the sideboards here, for the Jeskai side, it's hard to know what you want to take out because so many of your cards are good in the matchup already, and that's a pretty nice place to be in, right? But you can imagine more Kozilek's returns, just like as the extra sweepers, just sweeping all that stuff up. Also works very nicely with the Null Drifters that his deck is built around. And then on the Nadu side for Soderbergh, cards like Teferi, the One Ring, we often see. You could talk yourself into stuff like Vexing Bauble if you're worried about things like Subtlety, Force Negation, Solitude, Spell Pierce, Second Endurance maybe. And then Consigned to Memory is an interesting one because you look at that and you think, oh, that's for these Tron decks, these Eldrazi decks, but actually can be pretty decent against these control decks too, against stuff like Leyline Binding, Null Drifter against Listless, but also if you think Subtlety, Solitude, you effectively counted the triggers of those, and that's why they're being played in the first place. If they're being evoked, they're going out anyways. You effectively have a 1-mana counterspell for a lot of the interaction that you really care about.
So this is a card I'm not happy to see that seeing more play, but I love that it's seeing more play. It's that hate-love relationship. Kozilek's Return. We're seeing that kind of crop up more in the meta now, purely because obviously the Boros Mardu decks are very low to the ground. Oscar's Pride is a great way of going wide in Modern currently. And having a 3-mana instant speed way of dealing with all creatures, and then late a game it acts up as a second sweeper for 0 mana. Why are we seeing why is this card kind of where everyone's going towards now?
Well, as you say, like a lot of the most pushed things people are doing in Modern right now is cheap creatures that are small, but they're going wide. There's a lot of them, and you kind of need to kill them all on sight. That part's easier said than done, but if you get to sweep it all up in one go, then that's a really good use of one card. And if you have ways to bring it back, to return it, which in some lists that's like Devourer of Destiny and Worldbreaker. In this deck, it's Null Drifter for 3 mana potentially. Then that's a kind of a new 1-2 combo that Ryan gets to graft into his deck, where you play the Kozilek's Return and then you evoke your Null Drifter, you flash it back, and you've kind of built your own sweeper for this low price.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, does it? If I evoke the Null Drifter, does it trigger it? And obviously you answered it does. I'm like, that's it. If I saw this deck list 48 hours ago, I think I would have played this yesterday in the RCQ I played. This deck looks sweet. Really, a lot of one-offs, and it just looks really nicely built.
Yeah, when we saw this in the MXP event before, leading up to the PT, when Ting Fang was playing this, I thought, I'm not usually a Jeskai guy, but I could be convinced. I just need a small push over the edge.
And it looks like it's got a great Nadu matchup. Can it take down game number 2 here? Alexander's going to be on the play. Look at the opening hands here. I see a bunch of lands. Well, in fact, I think I can see 6 lands, 2 of them being Urza's Saga, and one of them being a Natuko. Let's see if this pans out as we start off with Urza's Saga.
Yeah, and Saga on 1, so no hope of slow playing that a bit to start making constructs on it. We are just racing towards something on turn 3 here. So for Ting Fang, if he has that Wrath of the Skies, he might think, all right, I want to use Wrath of the Skies as a sinkhole. Just blow up your Saga on turn 2 and prevent whatever's coming down the pipeline there.
Is there I guess, on the face of it, control deck, okay, great, I can go wide, I can just make constructs, this is going to be my game plan, and then secondary game plan could be the combo element, but Wrath of the Sky really just halts that whole plan in a 1-up. Plus, you've seen Dress Down in the main. You don't know how many copies, but you've seen Flage. You didn't see the Null Drifter game 1 though, which is again, that could be some like little spicy hidden nuggets that can gonna get blown out on this game as well. Be interested to see how many of them stayed in if all, as Counterspell goes to the graveyard with our Surveil trigger.
I would guess the full 4 have stayed in here. And the interesting thing about these smaller tournaments is if you're at the top tables in the same bracket, you haven't played against this guy yet, maybe, but you've played alongside him, probably in a few rounds. Maybe if there's an especially innovative deck, like you hear the rumbles about it, it's a talk of the tournament. So you might not know exactly what the list looks like. Again, it's a closed deck list tournament, but you probably have a rough idea, and you can kind of piece it together maybe. If you did see a Null Drifter or whatever, then you kind of know, all right, well, I got to respect Dress Down even more this time. Plus, we mentioned, recognize Ting Fang's name and his deck from previous tournaments. maybe Soderbergh's in the same spot, right? If he watches a lot of coverage, if he's playing in the same events, maybe this isn't the first time these two have thrown down together. So you might not know the exact 75, but maybe you know more than you would at first.
Imagine sitting across from someone and knowing what deck they're on before you even start playing them. I would never do that sat opposite you.
I have range. Well, I could be playing anything.
You look, you could be back when I used to know you when you used to live on this side of the pond. It literally was anything. There was so many spicy brews turning up, but I feel like you found your niche now, and it's going extremely well. That's why I had to stop playing Infect. You see, one because it's unplayable, and two, well, just everyone keeps Orcish Bowmaster hands now. It's just not good well for Infect players.
I mean, I hear Nadu is pretty good at Infect if you want to explore that direction in the next 7 days or so. But for now, we have Tune the Narrative here for Ting Fang, and well, this is where you cross your fingers and really hope there's no second white mana being fetched really quickly here for Wrath of the Skies.
No white source, no Wrath of the Skies. One time. Baxter does have a mana up. Could be like, kind of toying with a Swan Song or something, or a Spell Pierce, some sort of counter magic on the other side. Doesn't see any of it, so just passing the turn back. Surveil Land is where we're going to go. Let's have a little look-see. I do see a Phlasian hand for Ting Fang. I think there is a Null in there as well. Not great look at the other ones. Was that the world's quickest Surveil then? I mean, just like glanced at it and put it back on top. Like, yeah, I'm keeping that card. That's the one. I've got it.
Yeah, both players in the spot now where they kind of know exactly what they're looking for, and so you see someone keeping it that fast. That's pretty scary from the other side.
And of course, there's the light halfling on the battlefield, which if we were to cast a Nadu right now would be uncounterable. Which again, but halfling's been great against his control decks.
Notably, this list of Jeskai does have Reprieve, which gets through the uncounterability. I think we're going to see exactly that come up here. Yeah.
Just as you roll it up, my friend, bounce that back to hand, draw a card, go a card deeper, which I think found us an actual hard counter spell. This is going to get turned sideways, 4 more points of damage done, dropping Ting Fang down to 12. And how many Surveil Lands are we playing in this list? Let's have a little look, see. Let's see, 1, 2... Just the 2 and a couple of Triumphs, so maybe this is going to get us a Triumph now.
Yeah, get the Indatha Triumph maybe set up for 1 mana Leyline Binding if we draw it. Getting Raugan Triumph instead, so all the Jeskai mana well accounted for.
You know how I say I know card arts and I'm quite good with them. The Triumphs, the exception to that, I still never know which Triumph is which when I see them in regular art, full board, and that I'm like, and they've got a Triumph. Like I know that this is the Jeskai one because it's like the only one I play in full border, but the rest of them, they all catch me off guard.
Well, the thing about the Triumphs in Modern with all the fetch lines is you're in Standard, right? If someone plays a Triumph, well, you know what 3 colors that deck is, so you know what Triumph it is. In Modern, if they're playing Triumphs with fetches, it means they're probably playing all 5 colors in some capacity. So it really tells you nothing at all.
Well, 3 mana is being tapped here by the looks of it. What are we going to go do with it? It was very quickly how we were tapping it, so it's either going to be Flage or it's going to be Null Drifter. But I think we're going to go with this Dress Down. Go a card deeper. That finds us a Tune the Narrative. Counterspell also pulls to the front of the hand here. We know there's a potential Nadu coming down. Oh, is this I think this was a upkeep Dress Down because we know the Nadu is going to come down next turn, or could come down this turn. So Alexander is taking the turn off to kind of just set up a little bit more, ready for the turn that Nadu is deployed. And deciding to do it instead of in response. I feel like a lot of players would wait for the Nadu being on the stack and then cast the Dress Down, but deciding to do it in upkeep means we're going to take a bit more damage.
I think he knows he is going to be doing that this turn, and he doesn't want Nantuko triggering again if Alexander plays a land, so may as well get it out of the way, do it now. Also, if Alexander drew a cord or something, you don't want that to kind of get done in response, so just doing it at the safest time.
Yeah, remember, Ting Fang's life is getting lower and lower. This attack will drop them to 5, which means this Flage might have to be deployed next turn. I'm not even sure if that's enough. So we go 5 up to 8 up to 6. Yeah, it would be enough for another turn if that is the way to go about it. We've got something else to do in the turn by the looks of it. I think it might be cycle for a land. Yep. Lorion's Revealed. What a card. What a card. 5 mana for a blue card, which we can ditch to various other spells. We can do what we're doing here. Go get Island Cycle, which we know works getting Triomes, Surveil lands, Shock lands, and basics if needs be. And then just later on in the game, you can just 5 mana, draw us 3 cards. Untapping. Obviously, end of turn dress down. It goes to the graveyard. Big draw step. Hoping for Wrath of the Skies. Don't think we found it with that bigger outward breath that we had there. We have an account. Look, we need to stop the Nadu. There's so many creatures on the battlefield right now. With that Suko, there's a chance that we don't get another turn. Also on the battlefield, there is more than exactly 6 points of damage, which means, again, if they get turned sideways, we probably don't get another turn. So what's going through that ahead right now? How can we kind of bluff or at least get ourselves out of the situation to get another turn?
Well, at this point, Alexander, he's going to keep turning those creatures sideways, whether for combat or for quarter calling, and neither of those is good news. So I'm not sure there's a bluff on the table, really, but just has to do his best with it.
Well, I love this line. So we took out the halfling, which means now the Nadu would be counterable, which we do have access to counter magic in our hand. 2 copies, in fact, but a couple more tokens are going to get generated with that Misty coming down. And our life total has gone up to 7, so we can take another hit this turn. Even next turn, we might be able to, if we can go land drop, get the Flage out, still hold up counter magic. Okay, here's another great one as well. Here's the
Sun Cleanser.
Sun Cleanser, thank you very much. Sun Cleanser, so that's potentially turns off a Wrath of the Skies top deck. This is looking, we're just doing things the old-fashioned way. This isn't how Nadu's meant to win, turning things sideways and getting the combat damage in.
Well, as you know, any fans of these creature combat decks will tell you, sometimes you get scrappy with your young wolves, and that gets the job done,
Dude, I've won so many games of Noble Hierarchs. In fact, it's unreal. So it's like, turn Exalted Trigger, Exalted Trigger, Exalted Trigger. And just pass and turn back. Huge top deck. Needs to be great. Didn't get a good look at what it was. Obviously, Wrath of the Skies would have been a great one, but isn't currently. Not with Sun Cleanser on the battlefield. Land, fetch. It might just have to be Flage, hold up, counterspell. Flage will take us up to 5. But then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the battlefield, so would not be enough. And that is going to be Alexander taking down game number 2. We're going to do a game 3, Dom.
Yeah, so not how Nadu draws it up, but again, this is, like you saw that Nantuko on turn 2, just kept churning out tokens, and eventually, if you can't sweep those all away, and you can't deal with those one by one, then they're going to overwhelm you, and sure enough, that's what happened.
Now we will see Ting Fang on the play though. So does that play into anything? Does that mean that being able to hold up a counter magic a turn earlier can stop some of these big threats coming down? We can play our sweepers 1 turn early if needs be. We can get the dress down into one of our big hitters, Flage or Null Drifter, a turn earlier. Or are we still going to try and sit back, try and make our board state, kind of control the board, and then try and win later on in the game? Or do we just not have that amount of time against a Nadu deck?
It makes all of that easier, and it makes specific cards a bit better. So, Teferi Time Raveler, for example, like that card, a lot better against Urza Saga, or just in general on the play versus on the draw. So you might see like a slight shift, emphasizing that more, and just overall, right? Like if you're doing your dress down Flage thing on the draw, if you do that, well, you might just die. On the play, yeah, you're probably going to have the time. So just changes the rhythm of how the games play out in a big way.
Let's see how it's going to go as players finishing up shuffling. Remember, this is an RCQ, so everyone that gets into the top 8 will get an invite to the regional championships, as well as the MPX Championship 10K invite only at the end of the year. Another big prestigious tournament to take part in, so everything to kind of battle out and play for. Smile on both players' faces. Realistically, they both won at this point then. Opening hands, we see Land, Tune, and the card I was talking about, the Kozilek's Return. So we've got a couple more land and a Flage, one of them being a Arena of Glory. Haven't seen too much of that so far today, but dang, do I like casting using that card to cast my Flages from the graveyard with.
It's a really nice one, and you see it basically in any red deck that moves at this point. So in the Boros decks, Gigantha is like finally scary when it has haste half the time, and yeah, with Flage, that's yet another kind of 1-2 combo built into a lot of these Jeskai decks.
Also, giving a Null Drifter combo, haste seems quite nice. Haste Annihilator, anybody?
Yeah,
Looks pretty
yeah.
cool. Okay. Look, just I think this is just standard in modern at this point, right? We're both just gonna keep our opening 7, then pick our decks back up as we're gonna do something to do with fetching. One side we're gonna get a Shock Land. It's gonna be Breeding Pool. That's gonna give us a Delighted Halfling. The other side we're gonna get a Surveil Land. Get to look at that top card, see if we want to put it in the graveyard or draw it in our next turn. And now we don't want that land binding. It's gonna go to the graveyard. Untap, draw a card. Land and go. And Glide Half has got to be one of the best cards that you can do on the play on turn 1 for Alexander, because it now means that I can play my Nadu through your counter magic.
Yeah, Reprieve held up again. We'll see if that interaction comes up in this game as well. But yeah, the halfling has to be delighted just to get to live through the turn. You know, you kind of expected to eat a discharge or something, but Alexander gonna have that free reign with her here. See if we can make good use of that. There's turn 2 uncountable in air quotes to Teferi, and yeah, Ting Fang just has to do the narrative in response, but no mana for reprieve or anything else at this point. So looks like Teferi is coming down and ticking up. That tune the narrative does mean that if Ting Fang does find Galvanic Discharge, that can do the full 5 damage to Teferi, his Planeswalkers too, to deal with that problem. But then I'm sure there were more problems coming after that. So Ting Fang being put to the test here.
Yeah, that's usually like, normally when you see Delighted Halfling, it's normally creatures, like legendary creatures you see that they get uncountable. But it's legendary spell is the text on Delighted Halfling. So seeing it now to power out that Teferi to make it uncountable is a huge boon here, meaning that Ting Fang has to play all spells at sorcery speed until that Teferi gets off the battlefield. So we're going to maybe see what Flage this turn. It really puts a different spin on the game when you want to be the control deck, but you can only play at sorcery speed, right?
Yeah, and also the One Ring, common sideboard card in the Nadu decks, really big card in this matchup, and making that uncountable makes it even more scary, even more hard to deal with.
And here comes, so Flage, it looks like it is going to come down, take out that Delighted Halfling. And we're sandbagging this Arena of Glory, and I count 5 cards in that graveyard.
Yeah, so this next turn could be a really exciting one. If Ting Fang has enough time to do that, though, we'll see what Alexander has in store. With just 2 lands, there's nothing too scary that can happen. Teferi going to take up to 6, but Flage can double Helix that and then get a nice chunk of damage in as well.
Slam it. Let's go. Slam it. Out the graveyard. Boom. If this is endurance in Alexander's hand right now, is going to feel pretty awkward about not casting it. Because now Flage can do 3 points of damage, gain 3 life, and then with haste, we can turn it sideways and get another trigger, plus the 6 damage, because it is a big boy 6/6. I think they're just going to talk over life totals, make sure that they're correct. Now we've got life total sorted. We will go to combat. 6 to the face, 3 damage to that Teferi. Now the Teferi is off the battlefield, and I see 2 sweepers in hand here for Ting Fang as well. We've got the Kozilek and a Wrath of the Skies. And bear in mind that Alexander hasn't got a board yet. Any future boards probably aren't going to be sticking around for that long.
Yeah, Ting Fang tapped out, and we know his list not actually that high on the usual kind of pitch answers like subtlety, solitude, and so on. So Alexander does have a turn to play with, but he needs something really impressive this turn, or that Flage is just going to be lights out.
Flage has got a very good habit of closing down games extremely quickly. We're going to chord for 0. That means we're going to get this Dried Arbor. Has to go up front above the land. Shout out to Yellow Hat.
So this could mean, let's say Alexander has Shuko plus Nadu again, that's not a done deal, but we're off to the races at that point.
Isn't it crazy? Isn't that just crazy that that's a thing? Like, this game looks like so. Ting Fang looks so in control of this game, but yet really isn't if the right 2 cards are in Alexander's hand.
Yeah, and
That's...
second to Fairy would be good. The One Ring actually would be a decent draw from this point. So there's a few things it could be, but it does need to be one of them.
What's your opinion on the One Ring? Do you think we should only be allowed to play one, or do you like that we can play full 4 copies in our decks?
I kind of love the idea of restricting it. You're making it the only restricted card and having it be truly the One Ring. I've kind of been tickled by that idea since I heard it.
There's a handshake by Alexander. Hand just did not get there. Not enough setup. And that means Ting Fang taking this game down. And is going to advance to an 8-1-1 record, giving himself the best possible chance of getting into top 8 of today's tournament. Oof. That was not how that game was meant to go. the control deck turned into the aggro deck, and the combo deck didn't really do anything.
Yeah, so Alexander falling to 8-2, which looks like 13 rounds here, 10-3 at least, probably. With good breakers, the minimum record you need to get to the top cut. So both players still in good shape here. Ting Fang now 8-1-1, so you're above that part of the pack, in great shape as well if you can keep this going. But great performance here from this